Burger King presents Breakfast Stories. Today's story, Marty and the 2 for $4 croissant.
Yeah, I go to Burger King. They got that croissant deal, 2 for $4. It's wicked good with the sausage, dude. And 2 for $4, that is a huge bargain. Huge.
Well said, Marty. Tasty, savory, sausage on a flaky croissant. Hey, this is not breakfast. This is a Burger King breakfast. Get 2 croissant sandwiches now for just $4. Only at Burger King. Price and participation vary.
Good morning.
Blog Talk Radio.
Good morning. Welcome to Easy Knowing with Sherie Kennedy. I'm so glad that you decided to join me, and I hope that we have a really wonderful time chatting. If you have a question or anything that you would like to talk about, there should be a number on your screen, 773-897-6227. If you get a chance, an opportunity, I'd love to hear from you. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is that with all the changes and everything that we are going through right now, there's a lot of questions and a lot of confusion and indecision and the knowing and everything. But before we get into some of the really heavy stuff, I just wanted to share with you something that I received a long time ago, and it's called The Rules for Being Human. And I found these to be so very true. So I wanted to share them with you now. The first rule is you will receive a body. You may like it or hate it, but it will be yours for the entire period this time around. You will learn lessons. You are enrolled in a full-time school called life. Each day in this school, you will have the opportunity to learn lessons. You may like the lessons or think them irrelevant and stupid. Now remember, lessons are false beliefs that we hold that keep us from knowing who we truly are and living our life according to someone else. There are no mistakes, only lessons. Growth is a process of trial and error, experimentation. The failed experiments is as much a part of the process as the experiment that ultimately works. A lesson is repeated until learned. A lesson will be presented to you in various forms until you have learned it. When you have learned it, you can then go on to the next lesson. Learning lessons does not end. There is no part of life that does not contain its lessons. If you are alive, there are lessons to be learned. There is no better than here. When your there has become a here, you will simply obtain another there that will look again better than here. Others are merely mirrors of you. You cannot love or hate something about another person unless it reflects something you love or hate about yourself. What you make of your life is up to you. You have all the tools and resources you need. What you do with them is up to you, and the choice is yours. Ifs and shoulds don't count. If something should have happened, it would have, and since it didn't, it doesn't matter. All you can deal with is what is. And your answers lie inside of you. The answers to life's questions lie inside of you. All you need to do is look, listen, and trust. And here I will say again, no one has your answers but you. All anyone can ever do is help you, show you how to find them within yourself. So if anyone tells you that they have your answers, run like your life depends on it, because it does. You will forget all of this, and you can remember it whenever you want. So these are some of the things that we are doing, as I believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. And of course, we're living in a society where we are compared and judged by and to each other. And whenever you stop and think and ask yourself the one truth, do I believe that I'm the only one of me there is? All of science tells us that there are no two fingerprints alike, that there is no two of us that are alike in this world. So if you accept that truth, then how can you compare yourself to anyone or anything else and be good, bad, right, or wrong? You are simply having your human experience to evolve your soul. Another one of the things that I think that we have a hard time recognizing is how to love ourselves. So here are a few other reminders of what self-love really is. It's verbally acknowledging and praising yourself to yourself, approving of all your actions, of having confidence in your ability, giving yourself pleasure without guilt, loving your body and seeing only its good qualities, giving yourself what you want and feeling you deserve it, letting yourself win, letting others in instead of submitting to loneliness, following your own intuition, making your own rules responsibly, seeing your own perfection, taking credit for what you did, surrounding yourself with beauty, creating an abundance of friends, rewarding and never punishing yourself, trusting yourself, nourishing yourself with good ideas, surrounding yourself with people who nourish you, seeing yourself as equal to others, forgiving yourself, letting in affection, authority over yourself, not giving it away to another, developing your creative drives, talking to yourself gently and lovingly, becoming your own approving inner parent, letting go of destructive self-talk and judgments, affirming your highest and greatest good, and recognizing that you are a beautiful, radiant, rare, and precious cosmic miracle, and so is everyone else. Loving ourselves doesn't mean that we do not take responsibility for who we are, for the choices that we've made in life. It's exactly the opposite. Loving ourselves means that we do that. So it's really so much about getting in touch with who you really are, not who you've been told to believe you are or who everybody has told you that you should be. But it's really looking in your own heart and saying, okay, what works for me? Do I really believe that I'm less than? Or do I believe that I am a unique and radiant, rare and precious cosmic miracle? We're in a time of change. We're in a time of ascension. Humanity itself is ascending. We are becoming our truer selves. And as a result of this, as the vibration of the earth shifts and changes, we shift and change with it. We begin to vibrate at a higher rate. And all of the thoughts and the feelings and the diseases and the illnesses that resonate and vibrate within the lower densities are going to begin to fall away. Those that are deep within us and hidden are going to begin to come to the surface. And there is going to be a lot of confusion, a lot of ascension symptoms. So many things are coming through the body that are not from the body. And without the awareness and understanding of what is happening, it makes it a lot more challenging to experience it. For me, it's always been a lot easier to go through what I have to go through when I understand what it's all about. So I would love to hear from you. If you have any comments or questions about the things that we're talking about at this time, give me a call. So right now I'm going to give you some food for thought. Some simple truths, some reminders of things that you probably already know or may have forgotten or have never heard before. Whatever you want, you can have. First, you must decide you want it and give yourself permission and be willing to learn from it. We spend so much time trying to figure out what it is that we really want. And then we have to decide whether we are worthy of it, whether we can receive it, whether we're good enough, and all of these things. So we end up never getting what we want and feeling like that we're bad and we're wrong and we've done something horrible or we're a horrible person or something because we're not manifesting our desires in our world. The truth of it is that we are manifesting our thoughts and beliefs, because whenever you keep thinking about how wrong you are or how you're not good enough or how you need to do something different, that's what you're going to bring into your world tomorrow. The saying that what you think today manifests tomorrow is very, very true. We're just not real conscious of what we're thinking on, as we've been so conditioned to think of that. To think of ourselves in a negative way, that it doesn't occur to us to shift the crystal, to flip the coin, and to look at it from a different perspective. If we always focus on what is wrong in our lives, what we don't like, what we don't want, then that's exactly what we're going to keep drawing to us. As we open up and take the blinders off and look at it from the positive perspective, maybe you can only find one thing in your world that you can be good about, but that you can feel good about and be happy and proud of. If you focus all of your energy and effort on that one thing and make that bloom and grow, all of the negatives will begin to disappear. What you feed grows. So if you're constantly feeding yourself with the negatives that you perceive of yourself, whether they come from what you've been told all your life, what you think you've experienced, none of that is true. And it is in direct conflict to the one truth that you are the only one of you there is. Who or what are you comparing yourself to that is making that true? If you are the only one of you there is, you cannot be judged. You can learn from the experiences that you have. You can make choices to do it different the next time or the next way or whatever, but that doesn't make you wrong. We have to have the trials and errors to learn to know what is true for us, to know what we really want in our lives instead of what we've been told we're supposed to want. The minute that you have a thought, the chemistry is produced to carry it out. Now that means that the energy is released in your body to give you the ability to manifest it. If you don't use that energy, then that energy just stays in your body, and it's what we call held energy. We have the power to draw to us all that we need by how we think and what we believe. The miracle of a seed of corn growing and producing is not that it produces, but that it has the power to attract to it all that it needs to make it produce. Our minds plant ideas which have the power to attract everything necessary to make it grow, become aware, and achieve all information needed to attain its goal. It looks like that we have somebody here on the line, so let me click in. Hello.
Hey there.
Are you there?
How are you?
Hi. I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm great. I just had a quick question for you because, I was listening to what you were saying, and I've had some interesting experiences with fear in my life. It's always been something that has been sort of all-pervasive, and in the past has become something that formed into a more serious mental illness, which then I recovered from over time. But since then, it's remained and been kind of almost like, I don't know, I would call it like a friend in a way that's always there whenever I'm doing anything. But I was wondering what your approach would be in terms of overcoming a fear that's not necessarily associated with anything, where it just shows up when I'm doing anything.
Well, you're talking about the emotion of fear. We have a built-in survival mechanism. It's the fight or flight syndrome. And any time that we perceive a threat real or imagined, our body will automatically go into that fight or flight. The fight energy is hate and anger, and the flight energy is fear and resentment. The thing that you need to remember is that these emotions are neutral. It's what we do with it that creates it positive or negative. Anger can be one of the most destructive emotions we can experience, or it can be one of the most constructive because it will create change. By the same token, fear can absolutely paralyze you, feel like you're being chased down a dark alleyway by a big old monster. But when you stop and face the fear and look at it, then it becomes your best friend. Fear can keep you safe. It can keep you out of harm's way. It can keep you alert. Fear is triggered by a belief that you're not good enough, that you did something wrong, that in some way, shape, or form, you are less than. Any of these experiences create what I call the charge of an emotion. And the way to get out of the charge, now that doesn't mean that you're not going to be angry. You're just going to release the emotion of anger. Or you're still going to have fear, but it's not going to control you. So the first thing that you do, it's a 3-part, one-step process. And you first have to acknowledge what you're feeling. Just simply say to yourself, I feel fear. Feel it in your body. What does your body do when you make that statement? Do you get a tingling sensation? Do you feel kind of shaky? Do you have any kind of physical response? If you do, then repeat the statement, I feel fear, and say it with more emotion. And each time you say it with more emotion, you're going to be feeling more of that energy in your body. And as you feel that energy in your body, just imagine it running through your body, out your feet, into the earth. And the earth will take care of it. And once you've done all of that, then it's like, well, why wouldn't I? So you have to acknowledge, allow, and accept the emotion of what you're feeling. Once you do that, then you can come into the understanding and awareness of why it's there. But until you get out of the charge, you're just going to keep spinning in a cycle. Does that help? Yeah. Does that answer?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Well, I think part of the thing that affected me in the past was primarily trying to deny the experience when it would show up. So I'd say, if I would have a pang of fear, or it got to like the more extreme level of a panic attack or something like that, I would try to deny the experience rather than just accept the fact that that's the emotion that I'm having, because it's not necessarily
embrace it.
For me the most productive, but I think embracing it, in a sense, it would make it more productive. And it's just in the past, the way that I approached it, I think made it not productive.
Exactly. And that's what we're talking about. It's a choice, how you choose to experience it. And if you can face it and embrace it and say, well, of course, the fear is here to communicate to me, to share information with me in some way. So let's just embrace it, be with it, and see what happens.
Oh, that's great. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for calling.
No problem.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that was really, really wonderful talking with Aaron. And so, again, let me go over that one more time about how to get out of a charge of an emotion and to kind of explain what the difference is. We have feelings, and of course, in those feelings are, we feel fear, we feel anger, we feel resentment, and all of the adjectives that are used to describe them. Those are the feelings of an emotion. The charge of an emotion, when your body senses a threat and it goes into its fight or flight mode, what happens is that the energy in the physical form of adrenaline is released into your body to give you the ability to either fight or run based on the perceived degree of danger that you are experiencing. This is where, you hear the stories of parents being able to, or a mother being able to lift a car off her child and things like that. That is the threat to that, her survival was strong enough, and to her child's survival, that she had enough adrenaline in her body to give her the ability to do this supernatural feat and save the child's life. When that happens, the energy is used up, so there's nothing that's held in the body. So you've experienced a complete cycle. But the thing that whenever you experience, every time that, say when you're a child, or even, us as adults, when we are belittled or put down, or there's verbal abuse, or, somebody is threatening us and or making fun of us, bullying is a great example of the charge of the emotion. When somebody is attacking you in those ways, you get angry, you get scared. The energy in your body is released into your body to give you the ability to either fight or run. If, as we stated before, you use that energy, then you're back in balance. But all too often, we don't use that energy. We stop it. We stop somebody's yelling at us or calling us names, and we don't stop it. We can't do anything about it. And all of that energy is being held in the body. There's no place for it to go. We're not releasing it, but we're constantly feeling that fear, constantly feeling that anger. So it's being held in your body. The body will seek its own balance. And if you balance this energy through conscious awareness, through releasing of the energy, through activity or something, then you're going to come back into balance. But if you do not release that energy, the body balances itself through accident, injury, illness, disease, or unusual behavior for you. So again, stubbing your toe, walking into the wall, doing those little things that we do to ourselves, accidentally cutting our finger or things like that. Those are all ways that the body is bringing itself back into balance, because each one of those incidents releases the adrenaline that is held in the body. So to get out of the charge through the conscious awareness aspect, instead of letting your body take care of it for you, is to acknowledge, allow, and accept. Acknowledge what you feel. Allow your body to feel it, and accept that it's okay to feel it. Now, this is really important to understand here, is because if you do not complete all three steps, you will continue to stay in the charge. You can acknowledge what you're feeling, and you can feel it in your body. But instead of accepting it, you start going, well, why did that happen? Or I know what this did. And you start going into all of the reasons, which are absolutely invalid at this point. The fact that you felt it means that there was a reason for it. Whether anybody else understands it or not is irrelevant. You are the only one of you there is. You are unique and rare and precious. So this emotion is correct for you. It's bringing you information. It's giving you an opportunity to change a false belief or to become aware of a belief you didn't know you held. You must simply accept. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I feel fear? Why wouldn't I feel anger? Why wouldn't I feel betrayed, less than? Why wouldn't I feel this? According to everything. And you don't have to defend, explain, justify, or rationalize it. It's just what it is. So acknowledge it, allow it, and accept it. That will release the charge, which is the excess adrenaline that has been released in your body. Once you do that, you're still going to be upset or have the feelings of fear, resentment, or whatever the emotion was that you were in the charge of. The difference is that now you are able to say, okay, what was I angry about? Why did that make me angry? Why am I feeling fear? And once you start asking yourself those questions, you're going to get answers from your higher self. Universe is on your side. Creator wants us to be successful, wants us to evolve, because it evolves all of humanity when each one of us evolve individually. So always remember, the universe, creator, God, whatever you want to identify as, is on our side. At this point, I would usually ask, does anybody have any questions? So if you do, please give me a call. I would love to continue our discussion. So to change any situation in your life, you've got to change your attitude toward it. This is what I call shifting the crystal. If the way that you are perceiving an experience in your life or a situation, and that way is causing you to feel anger, distrust, bad, less than, any of the negative emotions, then you have a choice to look at that experience and say, okay, how can I see this different? Is there another way that maybe I can understand what this experience means to me? An analogy to that is that when we are being given an opportunity to learn a lesson that we have chosen to learn in this life, Creator presents a, quote, book to us. Now, this book we don't have the choice of. This book represents the experience, the situation, or the circumstance. And we may like it or hate it. We may think the book is tattered and torn. We may think it's ugly. We may think it's too big, it's too thick, or it's too small, and it's not going to get anything. You're not going to get anything out of it. But the thing you have to understand is that what this experience is giving you the opportunity to do is to see the situation and the experience from a different perspective. Every person that is in that experience with you, every person who is seeing that same book, is going to be reading from a different chapter. If you put that book in the center and then you put every person that is involved in the experience in a circle around that book, everyone will experience and see and perceive that book from a different perspective. Yet the perspective that that person is seeing it from is right for them. It's directly associated to the lessons that they are being given the opportunity to learn. So we can learn many, many different lessons from one experience. It's up to us to choose how we perceive it. Society doesn't want us. Our conditioning program does not want us to be aware in that way. So all of the attention is always focused on the book. And everything, it's always, the background is, oh, it's ugly, it's tattered, it's torn, it's this, it's that, it's full of judgment. But the focus is on what the book is, what the experience was, what the situation is. Instead, you've got to shift the crystal and look, what does this mean to me? How am I benefiting? How am I being taught? How am I learning from this experience? And in shifting the crystal and changing the perspective, you can always go back to your original perspective. But as you give yourself the opportunity and the possibilities of looking at something from a different point of view, you might just be able to see the solution, whereas before all you could see was a brick wall. If you don't know what the problem is, you cannot change it. And you cannot change it from the same perspective it was created from. So again, the universe is on our side, giving us opportunities every day and every moment of every day to shift our perspective, to choose the higher vibration. You cannot get where you are. You cannot get past where you are until you see where you are. And by allowing and accepting what is, instead of what you want it to be, gives you the opportunity to move forward. Accepting things as they are, seeing it for what it is, does not make you good or bad or right or wrong, because that doesn't exist in the first place. You've made choices, and for every choice there are consequences, whether those consequences are positive or negative. It's the opportunities that we are all being given to evolve. We are conditioned and programmed to believe that we are less than, that we are not good enough, that we can't trust, that we have to give our power away to somebody else to make them like us, that we have to be like everybody else. And whenever we accept a belief that is programmed into us, we make things happen to constantly reinforce the belief. So if you think that you're not good enough, then you, on a unconscious level, are going to be creating in your world experiences that are going to continually validate that belief. So until you can shift your crystal and look at it and say, well, wait a minute. If I do believe that I'm the only one of me there is, if I do believe that I am a radiant, rare, and precious cosmic miracle, then how can I believe at the same time that I am not good enough, that I am less than, or any of the other negatives that you're conditioned to believe that you are? It's a conflict. You cannot believe both at the same time. And as you begin to become aware of the choices that you have, now you can choose with conscious awareness what you want, the positive. It's kind of been buried over the years of this lifetime and many others, with all of the negatives and all of the lies that we have been told, who we are, who we're not, who we're supposed to be, who we can never be, what we're worthy of, and I mean, we can go on and on and on. We have to choose consciously. Most of the false beliefs we hold are beliefs that we accepted as before we were the age of 5 years old, and accepted it without understanding it. And they became a belief will become your rule of action until it is recognized or changed. Well, once you become aware that you hold a belief, you may choose to keep it and say, well, no, I like this belief. I'm going to hang on to this one. And you think, well, so what? I had it, and now I know that I have it. Well, that's powerful, because now you are making that choice with conscious awareness. If you believed that you weren't good enough because that's the way you perceived how everybody treated you and what everybody told you and blah, 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 then again, according to who and compared to what? If you are a unique, radiant, one-of-a-kind human being, how can any of that be wrong? When you choose a belief, you own it. You take responsibility for it. I remember one time when I first, one of the times that I experienced this in action was I always had a really hard time with funerals. Not because of the person, but I didn't feel like death was a time for mourning and crying as much as I felt it was a time to celebrate their life. I'm a big believer in birthdays, and I think that everybody's birthday should be the biggest celebration that they have in a year. Because without your birthday, that was the date you came to the planet. That's the date that you joined the party, so to speak. And the world would not be the same without you in it, regardless of what you think. Just your light, just your vibration, just your presence here touches and affects a multitude. Truly, we are all connected in so many different ways. So as you recognize and consciously choose the beliefs you have, it changes the way that you experience the world. I always felt like that I was bad and there was something wrong with me because I didn't like to go to funerals. Because I was always afraid that if other people knew I didn't like to go to funerals, that would make me a horrible person and nobody would love me and blah, blah, blah. And then I realized that want to celebrate a person's life, Yes, I'm going to be sad that they're gone. Yes, I'm going to miss them. All of those, to me, are obvious. But celebrating someone's life should be, when they leave this world, should be just as important as celebrating their arrival. So when I finally came into the awareness that of the belief that I held, and I chose to hold on to the one to my belief of celebrating a person's life rather than mourning their death, then it made it easier for me to deal with the death, with going to funerals and stuff, because I was going there because I chose to be there for those who were still alive, not because I was told I had to go and cry for somebody who was dead. So there is a huge difference in the energy between owning the belief you have versus giving your power away to the belief you've told you're supposed to have. Judging is the original sin. Judgment creates limitations that we place on ourselves, and it creates fear. Fear destroys love and understanding of ourselves and others. There is no good or bad or right or wrong. It just is. It's our judgment of the experience or of what is that makes it good or bad or right or wrong. Our filter, how we perceive what is good or bad or right or wrong, comes through our belief system. And it's to our benefit when you judge another person or a situation or an experience to ask yourself, whose judgment is it? Is this really my belief? Why am I judging him? And a lot of times we'll find, surprisingly, that we're just really going along with the crowd, and we really don't need or want to judge that person or situation. We're just kind of caught up in the flow. And at that moment, just say stop. Just say no. That's all it takes. It's a very, very simple process. Because no matter how hard we judge others, we judge ourselves 10 times more. Absolutes, like always and never, are judgments. We are not all things to all people. We are not meant to be. And because someone is different from you does not make them good or bad or right or wrong. It just makes them different. When you judge, you create negative energy. And negative energy drains your life force, which are your energy levels on all levels. Judging is a habit. Acceptance frees you to experience. And forgiveness is the key. Because without it, who is really paying the price? You or them? When you hate somebody, whenever you're judging them, when you're angry with them, do they really know about it? Does it really affect them as much as it affects you? You're the one all caught up in the energy, whether it's positive or negative. That other person that you're judging has no clue you're even judging them in a lot of sense. So again, who is paying the price? You or them? Just accept. Let it be okay. If somebody wants to wear pink polka dots and purple hair or whatever, so what? That's their experience. That's how they are expressing in this life. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. You can observe that that is not something that you might want to do, but does it make it bad for that other person? And that's the difference between just accepting and observing what's going on rather than judging it by making it good or bad or right or wrong. Psychic awareness is information that is received without judgment. How well are you listening to your instincts? When something goes on, that very first feeling you get, that very first thought that is usually very quickly pushed aside or negated and ignored. That's your higher self. That's your knowing. That's your true self. Communicating with you, giving you information that is right for you, that you need for your evolution. So work on changing the habit of judgment. And remember, changing a belief that is no longer to your benefit is easy. What is hard is changing the habit the old belief created. And when we do change a belief, whenever we come into the truth of who we are, the universe is going to support us by giving us experiences and opportunities and situations that to allow us to implement the new habit. You know, and sometimes it's easy and quick, and other times you have to really, really work with it. I can remember when I was a child, my mother yelled a lot. And that was a habit that I learned through the environmental conditionings and social behavior. You know, she always yelled at all of us, so, you know, that was something that we grew up believing was normal. When I had my child, I yelled at her. Until, again, I came into that awareness and to the understanding of, wait a minute, this is not something that I want to continue to do. I don't want to yell at my child. But let me tell you, changing the habit of that belief was challenging. But once I made the decision, I'm not going to yell at her anymore. Well, sure enough, the universe comes along and gives me an opportunity to where in the past I would yell at her because that was my habit and my conditioning. So, of course, I started yelling at her. And first time it was at the end of it, I had that immediate awareness of, you didn't want to do this anymore. So again, I reaffirmed, I choose to not yell at my child. And the next time, I maybe got about 3/4 through my yelling tirade and caught myself. And then a few times further down the road, I got about halfway through. And within about 7 or 8 attempts that I was consciously choosing to be aware of, I would start to yell and able to catch myself. So I was able to actually change the belief. And by changing the belief, which was it's okay to yell at somebody, to treat people with respect or treat those you love with respect and honor, it manifested. The universe supported me. Now, that's not to say that conditioning, that I don't ever yell anymore, because that's not a truth. Sometimes I can yell really good. But it's done in a very, very different way than what it was done as a conditioned response to the stimuli. So remember, it's really important to understand that whenever you have changed a belief, that you are going to be supported by having opportunities appear to give you a choice to choose different. It's not that you screwed up, that you did it wrong, that you didn't learn it, that you didn't get it, which is where ego has a tendency to take us. It is just you have to create the habit of your truth. And it takes 21 consecutive repetitions to create a habit. Whether that's 7 times in 3 days, or 3 times a day for 7 days, or once a day for 21 days. It still takes 21 consecutive repetitions to create a habit. And you are creating the habit of your truth. So let me ask you a question. How happy are you when your happiness depends on someone else? If anyone can build you up, they can also tear you down. This is another one of the ways that we give our power away, that we make other people's thoughts, feelings, and beliefs more important than our own. We have to give to ourselves what we are wanting from another. Because number one, if we don't give it to ourselves, how are we going to recognize it from someone else? And once you start meeting your own needs, giving yourself what you need, whether it's a kind word, whether it's whatever, how simple it is, you've got to give yourself what you need. We'll ask for a drink of water when we're thirsty. You can ask for a hug when you need one. You have to ask for what you need because nobody can know it without you telling them. And that's one of the things that we kind of forget to remember. Well, they should know what I need. Why? Why would they know what your needs are if you don't tell them? When you need approval, acceptance, a hug, it's okay to ask for it. And as you start out in the small ways of asking for what you need, it's going to be easier and easier to allow yourself to receive the bigger things, worth and value, love, trust. All of that is yours. But if you've been told for all your life that it's not, that creates a big conflict. But remember, you have a choice. You get to choose how you respond, how you feel, how you believe, what you think. And the best way to tell if you are doing that is to ask yourself, am I defending, explaining, justifying, or rationalizing my thoughts, feelings, and actions? Because if you are, you're seeking approval outside of yourself. You're trying to get someone else to agree with you, to approve of you, to make you feel okay because you don't feel that way yourself. All you can ever do is share the experience you have with someone else. And when sharing an experience, it's like telling a story. It's already done. It's past. So all of the judgment and comments and opinions that are heaped on that are irrelevant. Share your experiences, but do not defend, explain, justify, or rationalize them. The one who pushes your buttons the most is your greatest teacher. Your buttons are only connected to false beliefs. And those are things that we think are so hidden and camouflaged that nobody else can see it. But from the outside looking in, it's a plate glass window. It's only a brick wall from the inside looking out. And people can see where your buttons are, and they will push them. They will use those buttons to control, to manipulate you, to get you to do what to fill their needs, to meet their make them feel better about themselves. There's a term that we use called energy vampires. And energy vampires are people who feed off of somebody else's energy. Kind of like somebody who, one of the most common is like a teasing vampire. Someone who will just tease and tease and tease until they start crying. And when the person starts crying or gets angry, there's a release of energy. Well, the person who's doing the teasing, who is the vampire, suddenly is feeling fat and happy. They just got fed. You're feeling sucked dry, abused, betrayed, and beaten up. And then the comment is, oh, I was just teasing. I didn't really mean it. That's a way that people do not take responsibility for their actions. And we allow them instead of saying, yes, you did. You were doing that on purpose. And it's not acceptable. We let it go because we're taught you don't talk back, you don't get mad or things like that. Well, you don't have to get mad, but you do have to speak your truth. You do have to say no. Fear of being rejected creates self-defeating behaviors. And the only way that you can be rejected is by yourself. If you accept, forgive, and love yourself, if you allow yourself to be the unique, radiant, rare, and precious being that you are, all of the fear and anger of others not giving you what you need is gone. Because when you meet your own needs, it's one of the most wonderful things in the world. And one of the most amazing things that happens when you start meeting your own needs is that all of a sudden, where you couldn't buy, beg, borrow, or steal that getting that need met before, people will begin to lay it at your feet. When you feel worthy, then you start attracting all of that to you. When you are trying to feel worthy, all you're going to attract to you is trying to feel. So it will stay empty. When you feel worthy within yourself, as an example, you will start drawing to you all that you need to create that reality for you. The minute you go outside of yourself for something, you are going to be controlled and manipulated. If another, and we're not talking on a conscious level, this is our conditioned behaviors, and most of this is on a subliminal basis. But other people do recognize. And we play games with each other. Oh, well, I'll tell you how beautiful and special and worthy and good you are if you will do this for me. But the game that begins with that kind of agreement is that the person who is going to give you all of that is going to hold you ransom in a sense, because all they have to do is say, you didn't do what I wanted you to do, so I'm going to withhold all of my love and approval from you. And you're devastated. You're going, well, what just happened here? And you will see that scenario played out millions of times in our lives. But the minute that you come back in and you say, okay, no, I have value. I am worthy. This is my life. My life was given to me by Creator. Mine to do with, mine to live, mine to evolve my soul through. Then all of a sudden, everybody is going to be laying it at your feet. And it'll be nice, but it won't matter. Because you've already met your needs. You've already given yourself what you need. That's where we go back to the self-love. You know, how are you loving yourself? How are you treating yourself like your own best friend, being kind to you, treating you like the unique and radiant, one-of-a-kind being that you are? That is kind of beaten out of us in a sense. You know, the powers that be, quote unquote, do not want us to feel good about who we are. They don't want us to even know who we are. So everything in our world is designed to keep us down, to keep us feeling less than, to keep our lights from shining. When you judge life, you are manipulated and bound by survival and negative expression. But when you experience life, you are free to choose the expression of your feelings, and they become the creative expression. And always remember that there is a difference between something being to your highest good and having your own way. You always want your highest and greatest good, because whatever you are manifesting in your world, I want it manifested through Creator's vision, not mine. The Creator has much more knowing than I do. So surrender, let go. I want to thank you for joining me today. And hopefully next week at the same time and place, we can have a nice conversation again, and hope to hear more from you. I would love to hear from you. If you have any comments or questions, please go to my website, send me an email. and we will go from there. Thank you so much for joining me. Be blessed and choose your highest and greatest good. Bye-bye.
Burger King presents Breakfast Stories. Today's story, Marty and the 2 for $4 croissant.
Yeah, I go to Burger King. They got that croissant deal, 2 for $4. It's wicked good with the sausage, dude. And 2 for $4, that is a huge bargain. Huge.
Well said, Marty. Tasty, savory, sausage on a flaky croissant. Hey, this is not breakfast. This is a Burger King breakfast. Get 2 croissant sandwiches now for just $4. Only at Burger King. Price and participation vary.